You think you're in control of your life. But what if it's your emotions that are secretly in charge? One insult, one rejection, one failure, and suddenly, your emotions take the wheel. But what if you could stop reacting on impulse? You wouldn't just control your emotions. You'd reclaim control over your entire life. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, how much control have I unknowingly handed over to others simply through my reactions? Not to a machine, not to fate, but to your own anger, your frustration, your pain. Someone insults you, you get angry. Plans fall apart, you get discouraged. You're rejected, judged, criticized, and you spiral into negativity, and all of it happens because you allow it. You may believe you're steering your own life, but in reality, your emotions are driving the car. You've let the outside world dictate your inner world. And when that happens, you're no longer in charge. You're being controlled, moved, pulled by every external force like a puppet. But what if you could pause? What if you could walk into any situation with calm, unmoved, unshaken? What if you could catch yourself before reacting on impulse and instead respond with intention? If you could do that, you wouldn't just control your emotions. You'd take back control of your entire life. This is the heart of Stoicism, a philosophy that guided some of history's greatest minds through hardship with unshakable calm. And today, you're going to learn how to apply it to your life. If you're ready to stop being pushed around by the world and start mastering yourself, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn could permanently shift how you move through life. Lesson 1. Master yourself by letting go of what you can't control. Picture this. You receive an email from your boss. The tone is harsh, maybe even unfair. Your pride stings, emotions flare, and your fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to snap back. But right before you hit send, a quiet thought crosses your mind. Will this reaction actually serve me? Or is it just a momentary outburst that gives away more control than it gains? This is the turning point. Stoicism isn't about apathy or emotional suppression. It's about clarity. It teaches one powerful truth. There are things you can control and things you cannot. You can't control your boss's tone. You can't control how others treat you or how the world unfolds. But you can always control your reaction. If you send that angry reply, who's really in charge? Not your reason, not your clarity. Your emotions are holding the reins. So what happens when you pause, when you take that breath before reacting? That's when something powerful begins to shift inside you. Instead of rushing into action, if you step back for just a moment and ask yourself, what really matters right now? You unlock a new kind of power, because real control, it isn't about forcing results. It's about choosing your response, intentionally, wisely. The less you react, the more control you actually have. It may sound counterintuitive, but think about it. Every time you let your emotions dictate your actions, you're handing your power away. If someone insults you and you lash out, who's really in control? They are. They've pulled your strings, and you danced. If a setback sends, you spiraling into panic. The event itself is now governing your inner world. But when you pause, breathe, and reflect instead of reacting, you take your power back. Imagine yourself as a skilled rider holding the reins of a wild horse. The horse may be full of energy, unpredictable, but you decide where it goes. You direct it. You stay steady. Let's look at a real-world example. Meet Mark. He's a marathon runner who trained for months to compete in a major race. Everything was ready. But on race day, the skies opened, rain poured down, the track turned slick. 5 kilometers in, Mark twisted his ankle. In that moment, he had 2 options. He could rage at the weather, curse his luck, dwell in disappointment, or he could accept what had happened and shift his mindset. He couldn't change the rain, he couldn't undo the injury, but he could control how he responded to it. Mark limped off the track with a quiet, powerful thought. I'll come back stronger. Another person might have let bitterness consume them, but Mark chose to focus on what he could control: his attitude, his resilience, his future. This is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus meant when he said, "You become what you give your attention to." If you don't consciously choose what thoughts and images you feed your mind, someone or something else will. And what happens when you constantly focus on things outside your control? People's opinions, random obstacles, unfair circumstances. You let the world mold you. You become reactive, chaotic, shaped by everything but yourself. But if you shift your attention to what truly matters, your mindset, your values, your actions, you begin to reclaim ownership of your life. Letting go is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's not surrender. A soldier cannot choose when a war begins, but he can decide how he fights. A business leader cannot control the market, but she can revise the plan. A parent cannot dictate every decision their child makes, but they can guide, support, and lead with patience. The question is, what are you choosing to hold on to when letting go might actually set you free? Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. As we discovered, real control doesn't come from trying to dominate everything. It comes from recognizing what's beyond your reach and learning to release it. True strength is knowing what to loosen and what to hold tight. Consider this powerful moment in history. When Jesus was arrested, panic broke out among his disciples. One even drew a sword, ready to fight and defend him. But Jesus, he didn't respond with fear. He didn't lash out in anger. Instead, he remained calm, composed. He understood that while he couldn't control the chaos around him, he could absolutely control how he responded to it. He said, "Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels?" In that moment, he had the power to resist, to retaliate, but he chose restraint, and that one choice changed history. Now, reflect on your own life for a moment. How many times have you let circumstances outside your control consume you? How often have your moods, your words, or your peace been hijacked by something you couldn't change? If you keep doing that, if you keep reacting to everything, you're not living free. You're wrapping yourself in invisible chains. But there's another path. When you learn to pause, to observe instead of react, you begin to unlock your freedom. So what can you do, practically, to take back that control? Start small. The next time you feel triggered, whether it's a sharp comment, a delay, or a rude stranger, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, then let it go. Let that moment pass like a cloud across the sky. Then, redirect your focus. Stop pouring energy into trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead, channel it into what you can influence, your attitude, your choices, your next step. Because this is the true foundation of self-mastery. But it's only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you take the next step, when you learn to respond rather than react. And that difference? It will define the kind of person you become. So what really separates reaction from response? It's more than just a momentary pause. It's the difference between losing yourself and leading yourself. Reactions are fast, they're loud, intense, and often messy. They erupt from instinct, hardwired into our primitive brains, designed to prepare us for one of two things: fight or flight. But here's the thing. You're not in a jungle anymore. The battles we face today aren't about survival in the wild. They happen in the office, during meetings, through texts, in arguments with loved ones, sometimes even at the dinner table. And the danger now isn't physical harm. It's losing something far more precious: your dignity, your opportunities, your trustworthiness. So if reacting on impulse doesn't serve us anymore, what should we do instead? The answer is simple, but powerful. We respond. It might sound like a small shift in wording, but the truth is, this shift defines everything. Because the difference between reacting and responding, it's the difference between being controlled by life and choosing how to live. Think of it this way. A person who reacts is like a tiny boat in a storm, tossed around by every wave at the mercy of the wind. But someone who responds, they're the captain of the ship. Steady, intentional, focused, even in rough waters. And here's what responding doesn't mean. It doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean bottling up your feelings or avoiding confrontation. It means you choose how to engage without losing yourself in the process. Imagine you're a trauma doctor. A patient is rushed in, bleeding, critical. Do you panic? Scream? Freeze? No, you assess, you breathe, you act deliberately. Reacting in fear could cost a life. Responding with clarity could save it. And the same is true in daily life. Someone insults you. The knee-jerk reaction? Retaliate, prove them wrong, make them pay. But a wise response begins with a pause, a breath, and one powerful question. Is this worth my energy? Is this really a battle worth fighting? Or can I protect my peace by walking away? Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Life will test you. People will frustrate you. Situations will push every button you have. But none of that defines you. Your strength is revealed in how you choose to respond. A criticism can either be a wound or a window into growth. It all depends on how you choose to see it. So how do you begin shifting from reaction to response? Start by being suspicious of your first emotional impulse, that immediate voice shouting in your head. It's like a drunk man with a megaphone, loud, irrational, and rarely worth listening to. So when that inner voice shouts, when your emotions rise like a tidal wave, what do? You pause, you breathe, you take one small step back from the heat of the moment. Because in that tiny space between stimulus and response, that's where your power lives. When anger begins to surface, don't rush to speak. Don't let your hands move faster than your mind. Instead, stop and ask yourself, do I really need to respond right now? Will this still matter in an hour, a day, a year from now? That single pause, just a few seconds of silence, can be the difference between chaos and control, between regret and wisdom. Another powerful way to shift your mindset is to change the questions you ask yourself. When most people face a problem, their first instinct is to say, "Why is this happening to me?" But a Stoic asks a different question. What can I do with this? The first question turns you into a victim. The second, it turns you into the one holding the reins. Now take a moment to think about the people you truly admire. The ones who remain calm while everyone else panics. The ones who make smart, focused decisions even in chaos. They're not loud. They're not the ones yelling, slamming fists, or threatening others. They're the ones who stay steady, anchored. Why? Not because they don't feel anything, but because they've trained themselves not to let emotions take the wheel. As the Bible says, fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. If you've ever said or done something in anger that you immediately regretted, then you already know how true this is. Now imagine something different. Imagine a day when you are no longer ruled by those emotions, where getting cut off in traffic doesn't ruin your mood, where criticism doesn't send your mind spiraling, where setbacks don't hijack your peace. How much more could you focus? How much more could you accomplish if you weren't stuck fighting battles that don't matter? Because here's the truth. Control isn't about changing others. It's about learning to govern yourself. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't react. Pause. Observe. Remember, you always have a choice. And when you choose to respond instead of react, you'll come to a powerful realization. Control was never something you had to search for. It's been within you all along. Now let me ask you, have you ever made a split-second decision in anger that you later wished you could undo? If you could go back, how might things have turned out differently? Share your experience in the comments, because sometimes a small shift in how we respond today can lead to a completely different life tomorrow. So now you've learned the power of choosing your response. But what happens when the pressure rises, when life feels like it's spiraling out of control? That's where the next level of self-mastery begins. And if this message is resonating with you, if you're ready to keep taking charge of your life through the lens of Stoic wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. You're in control of more than you think. Sometimes all it takes is one better choice. Number 3. Stay calm under pressure. The Stoic way. Let me tell you a story. A fighter pilot is soaring mid-air during a mission. Suddenly, disaster strikes. The aircraft is hit. The engine fails. The controls are dead. The plane begins spiraling toward the earth, plummeting at terrifying speed. In that life or death moment, the pilot has only two options: panic and die, or stay calm and survive. He chooses to breathe. He focuses only on what he can control. One task, 1 second, one decision at a time. And because of that decision, he lives. Despite falling from 10,000 meters, he survives. That, right there, is the power of calm. And life? It often works the same way. It doesn't send warnings. It doesn't care if you're ready. One day your company might go under. One day someone you love may walk away. One day the doctor might call with news you never wanted to hear. And in those moments, reacting on impulse, panicking, spiraling, only makes the crash harder. But here's what most people don't realize. Calm isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. In other words, in every crisis, what truly matters isn't the event itself. It's the meaning you attach to it. Imagine a fire breaks out. Will you be the one who runs in chaos, or the one who grounds themselves, breathes deeply, and finds the exit? This isn't just stoicism, it's psychology. There's a term for it: reframing. It's the ability to shift your perspective on a situation, and in doing so, shift your entire experience of it. Because when difficulty strikes, our natural instinct is to imagine the worst-case scenario, to catastrophize. But what if, instead of surrendering to fear, you consciously chose a different lens? Let's look at someone who lived this reality: Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor and also a psychologist. And through unimaginable suffering, he discovered a profound truth. The ones who survived weren't always the strongest physically. They were the ones who found meaning in their suffering. When everything is stripped away, the only thing that remains is your choice of how to respond. And in that moment, that choice can redefine the entire course of your life. Take something as real as losing a job. For many, it feels like devastation, a blow to confidence, the beginning of uncertainty. But, viewed from another perspective, could it be an opportunity? An opportunity to escape a stagnant career. A chance to pivot towards something you've always wanted to do, but never dared. This isn't blind optimism. This is reframing, changing the lens through which you view the situation. It's choosing a narrative that empowers action rather than paralysis. But remember, calmness isn't just a mindset, it's a survival skill. In a crisis, your nervous system instantly triggers the fight or flight response. Your body floods with adrenaline. Your heart pounds, your hands tremble, your breath quickens. For our prehistoric ancestors, this reaction was vital. It helped them outrun predators. But in modern life, it often backfires. Panic during a job interview, you lose the opportunity. Freeze during an emergency, you make critical mistakes. So how do you train your mind to stay calm when the world around you is spinning? One of the most powerful tools is box breathing, a technique used by Navy SEALs to stay clear-headed under extreme pressure. The principle is simple. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and repeat. Studies show this method reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and helps shift your brain from reactive mode to a more rational, composed state. But breathing alone isn't enough. True composure comes from a trained mind. People who fall apart under pressure are often those who have never faced discomfort before. Soldiers aren't born brave. They become brave through relentless training. So when the real battle arrives, emotion doesn't dictate action. A person who knows how to swim doesn't fear the water. And someone familiar with hardship doesn't break when life gets hard. So how can you build this kind of mental resilience? By deliberately seeking discomfort. If you always live in ease, the smallest inconvenience can shake you. But if you train for challenge, wake up earlier than you want, train in tough conditions, step into uncomfortable situations, then, when real adversity strikes, your mind will already be steady, because you've been there before. Even Scripture echoes this wisdom. Real strength isn't forged in comfort, it's revealed in hardship. And some of the most powerful words ever written remind us of that truth. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Don't fear difficulty. Train yourself to be the kind of person who does not break beneath its weight. Because the truth is, adversity doesn't shape who you are. It reveals who you've been all along. When life is calm and everything goes according to plan, it's easy to look composed. But when the walls crumble, when you lose, when you fail, when the world seems to turn against you, that's when your true character stands up and introduces itself. So yes, calm in chaos is power. But here's the question. Does that mean we should stay silent, even in the face of insults or provocation? That brings us to the next crucial lesson in Stoic mastery. Lesson 4. How to ignore insults and stay unshaken. Have you ever noticed that the people who lash out with the most venom are often the ones most easily wounded? They go out of their way to provoke others. They spit insults, stir conflict, create drama, not because they're strong, but because they have no control over their own emotions. They're like wounded animals, lashing out, not from courage, but from fear and insecurity. And when you react to them, you don't rise, you descend. You enter their arena, you start playing their game. But here's the key. Choosing not to respond is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's discipline, it's a form of quiet victory. You don't lose because you walked away. You win because you refuse to give them power over your peace. We've been conditioned to think that when someone insults us, we must defend our honor. That silence equals defeat. That retaliation equals strength. But let me ask you, what is honor, really? If someone's careless words can shake your dignity, was your dignity ever truly solid? A true Stoic would never hand that kind of control to another person. They know. An insult only has weight if you choose to carry it. Picture this. Someone throws a burning coal at you. You can catch it in your hands, feel it burn, let it scar you. Or you can let it fall to the ground, untouched, and walk away without a mark. Let me share a true story. It's about one of my professors, a man deeply committed to Stoic philosophy. One day, while walking through a crowded street, he was suddenly stopped by a stranger, someone loud, angry, and clearly looking for a fight. Right there, in front of everyone, the stranger hurled a stream of harsh insults at him. So what did my professor do in that moment of public insult? He smiled. He said nothing, and he simply kept walking. There was no flinch, no anger, no trace of ego. The man who had launched the insults stood there, baffled. He had come for a fight, for attention, for emotional dominance, and received nothing. While the stranger drowned in his own frustration, my professor walked on, light, unshaken, and completely free. And in that moment, I learned something I've never forgotten. True strength is not found in retaliation. It's found in the quiet power to rise above the noise. It's not about resistance, it's about detachment. The ability to remain centered while the world tries to pull you off balance. But how do we apply this kind of calm composure in everyday life? It starts with one small shift. Resisting the urge to react. When someone says something offensive, pause. A few seconds of silence can carry more power than 1,000 sharp words. That pause gives you space. Space to ask yourself, do I really need to respond? Is this worth disturbing my peace? And most of the time, the answer is no. Here's another simple but powerful technique. Learn to forget the insult. Think about a time when someone said something that made you angry. Now ask yourself, did it still matter a week later? A month? A year? If it didn't, why let it take root in your heart now? Try this mental image. Every insult is like a dry leaf floating on the surface of a lake. You can watch it drift gently by, or you can grab it, hold it, and let it disrupt the stillness of the water. The choice is always yours. But don't mistake this for weakness. Choosing not to react doesn't mean you're allowing yourself to be walked over. If someone repeatedly insults you, especially in a workplace or relationship, silence forever is not the solution. That's when you respond with intention, not emotion. Sometimes all it takes is a calm, steady look and the words, "I don't care for this." Or perhaps just a single indifferent glance, enough to show that their words have no power over you. As Epictetus once said, it is not events that disturb people. It is their judgment concerning them. An insult is not a blade, it's just sound, carried through the air, until you give it meaning. Even Scripture echoes this ancient wisdom. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself, will be just like him. Because when you argue with a fool, you don't win. You just become part of the noise. When you respond to provocation with more provocation, you're not rising above it. You're stepping into their arena. But when you refuse to engage, something powerful happens. You reclaim the upper hand. You're no longer giving away your peace for the sake of ego. You're no longer pulled into emotional battles that don't deserve your energy. And in that choice, not to react, you hold all the power. By now you've made it halfway through this journey. And that means something important. You're not just curious about Stoicism. You're committed to mastering it. You're no longer content to be ruled by emotional impulse. You're ready to rewrite the rules and take ownership of how you respond to life. Slowly but surely, we've been dismantling the invisible chains that bind our reactions, one by one. And the best part? We're just getting started. What comes next will take you even deeper. So, if this has been valuable to you so far, give this video a like. Not just to support the channel, but to help others, people like you, find these insights and begin their own transformation. Now, let's keep going. Lesson 5. Step back to take control. The power of pause. Let me ask you to visualize something simple. You're holding a glass of water. Someone walks by and accidentally bumps into you. Water spills out onto your hand, your clothes, maybe even the floor. And now you feel irritated, frustrated, annoyed that your shirt is wet and your day disrupted. But pause for a moment and ask, why did the water spill? The obvious answer might be, because someone bumped into you. But the truth is more subtle. The water spilled because the glass was already full. If your mind is constantly filled to the brim with stress, anxiety, and unresolved emotion, then even the slightest nudge from the outside world can cause you to overflow. A harsh email, a rude comment, a small mistake, and suddenly you're reacting, snapping, spilling everywhere. But imagine instead, if your inner glass was only half full, if you had space, mental space, to absorb life's bumps without spilling your peace. That's what it means to pause, to take a step back before reacting, to make room inside yourself for clarity. But let's be honest, why is that pause so difficult? Because reacting is instinctive. It's built into us. Our brains are wired for survival. Like a wild animal flinching at sudden movement, we're conditioned to react quickly to perceived threats. The problem? Most of today's threats aren't life or death. They're psychological, a misunderstanding, a sarcastic tone, a last-minute cancellation. And in these situations, our instinctive reactions often work against us, not for us. That's why the ancient Greeks spoke of ataraxia, a state of unshakable inner tranquility. Not because nothing happens, but because nothing shakes you. True calm doesn't come from indifference. It comes from intention. And as we just learned, sometimes the greatest act of strength is simply taking a step back. Imagine this. You're standing on a high bridge, gazing down at a river flowing steadily below. Now picture yourself edging too close. One strong gust of wind and your balance wavers. You feel the pull, the danger. But what happens if you take just one step back? Suddenly you're grounded, you're safe, you're still able to observe the flow of the water, but without fear of being swept away. That's what the power of pause gives you. Taking a step back doesn't mean you're giving up. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to create space, to reflect before reacting. Let's say someone offends you. Maybe they make a passive-aggressive remark or say something cruel. You have a choice. You could fire back immediately, defend yourself, raise your voice, prove your point. Or you could pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this really worth losing my peace over? Will this still matter tomorrow or even next week? And honestly, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So how do we train ourselves to make that pause? Here's a simple, powerful technique, the 5-second rule. The next time you feel that heat rising, anger, anxiety, frustration, don't react. Take a deep breath. Count slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just those few seconds can give your mind the space it needs to regain control. It may sound trivial, but in practice, it can transform how you handle conflict, pressure, and even opportunity. It's a method used by top performers in high-stakes environments, elite athletes, seasoned negotiators, even military leaders. Why? Because they understand this truth. When you don't rush to respond, you shift the advantage back to yourself. But stepping back isn't just about emotional space. It's also about physical space. If you're feeling overwhelmed by noise, arguments, pressure, change your environment. Stand up, step outside, take a walk. When the tension rises, even a short physical break can reset your mental state. Sometimes, clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from moving your body, breathing fresh air, and letting your thoughts settle on their own. And this idea isn't new. The Bible offers timeless wisdom. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. The foolish explode the moment emotion hits. The wise, they hold back, not because they don't feel, but because they understand. And it's not just negative emotions. Even joy, when ungrounded, can cloud our judgment. As we've just seen, taking a step back isn't just about calming a situation. It's about reclaiming control over yourself. And when you skip that pause, even joy can lead you astray. Think about it. Someone wins the lottery. They're ecstatic, overwhelmed with possibility. And within months, the money is gone, lost in a storm of impulsive choices. Another person receives constant praise. Slowly, that validation turns to arrogance. They stop listening, stop learning. Or someone falls deeply in love, blinded by emotion. They ignore every red flag, overlook every warning sign. What do all these moments have in common? They stem from not knowing how to pause. The ability to step back isn't just a tactic for conflict. It's a safeguard for clarity, no matter the emotion. Because when you learn to stay composed in the small moments, a careless comment, a minor mistake, a tense conversation, you build the strength to stay grounded when major storms arrive. And that leads us to something even deeper. Lesson 6, endure with purpose. Strength through suffering. This is where the real work begins. Endurance isn't weakness. It's not passive. It's not about simply surviving. It's one of the highest forms of strength. In this world, reacting is easy. Anyone can lose their cool when things go wrong. Anyone can yell back when insulted. Anyone can storm out when they don't get their way. But not everyone can hold their ground. Not everyone can stay calm in the middle of chaos. Not everyone can endure pain without letting it control them. So let me speak plainly. If you want to master your life, you must first master how you respond to discomfort. Think back to a time when someone insulted you, or gossiped about you, or treated you unfairly. How did you feel? Angry? Frustrated? Did you immediately start crafting a comeback in your head, thinking of ways to put them in their place? But then, what happened afterward? When the anger faded, what was left? Usually, exhaustion, maybe even regret. Because in that moment, you gave away your power. You allowed someone else's behavior to hijack your emotions. You didn't gain strength. You became a puppet, dancing to the strings of the outside world. The Stoics understood something critical. Self-control is not about ignoring your emotions. It's about learning how to hold your ground in discomfort without letting it dictate your actions. Think of a soldier standing firm while his commander screams in his face. Think of a fighter who takes a hit but doesn't lose focus. They don't remain calm because they feel nothing. They remain calm because they've trained themselves not to be ruled by reaction. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you've trained yourself not to be ruled by what you feel. And few embodied this discipline more than Cato, one of the most revered figures in Stoic history. Cato wasn't just known for his intellect or his political stance. He was known for his unshakable character. To train his indifference to public opinion, he would deliberately wear plain, unfashionable clothing and walk barefoot through the streets. People mocked him. They laughed, whispered, pointed fingers. But Cato never flinched. He wasn't deaf to their insults. He simply understood that responding would mean handing over his power. If he had gotten angry even once, the loss wouldn't have been to those mocking him. He would have lost a battle against himself. And that's the deeper truth. Because life, in so many ways, is a daily psychological test. Every day, you'll encounter impatience from others, unfair treatment, unexpected obstacles, and countless little frustrations that try to steal your peace. And if you don't train your endurance, what happens? You get pulled into petty conflicts. You waste precious energy on trivial moments. And slowly, silently, you wear yourself down until the real challenges arrive and you have nothing left to face them with. That's why this matters. C.S. Lewis once said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." In other words, strength isn't what you say you believe. It's how you hold on to it, especially when the pressure hits. If you want to be steady, you must stay grounded when the world shakes. If you want to be calm, you must stay quiet when chaos invites you to shout. If you want real control over your life, you must train yourself to endure without breaking. So how do you start? Start small. The next time someone cuts in line, or says something that feels unfair, or tries to push your buttons, pause. Just for a second. Ask yourself, does this really matter? Is it worth disturbing my peace? And most of the time, 90% of the time, the answer is simple, no. And when you remain still in that single moment, you begin to build something powerful, a foundation, a fortress. Because here's the paradox, the more you endure, the stronger you become. Those who react impulsively often think they're displaying power, but what they're really doing is revealing their weakness, their lack of control. The person who stands calm in the storm, who doesn't get pulled under while others flail, who remains anchored while chaos rages. That's the one with true power, like a rock in the ocean. The waves crash, the wind howls, but the rock doesn't move. So now the question is simple, but profound. Do you want to be that steady rock, unshaken by crashing tides and shifting storms? Do you want to finally take control of your life, or will you keep letting the little things control you? If you're truly ready to develop deep, lasting inner strength, comment below, steady as a rock. Let that be the moment you mark the beginning of your transformation. Lesson 7. Go with the flow. Embrace what comes. There's a powerful paradox that most people miss in life. The more we try to control everything, the more out of control we feel. Picture someone trapped in quicksand. What's their first instinct? Struggle, fight, thrash around in panic. But the more they struggle, the deeper they sink. It's only when they stop resisting, when they relax and surrender to the I moment, that they begin to float again. That same principle applies to how we handle adversity in life. When you overreact to challenges, when you try to micromanage every twist and turn, when you obsess over outcomes you cannot control, you don't find peace. You find anxiety. You spiral deeper into frustration, confusion, and burnout. But when you accept things as they are, when you stop resisting reality and start flowing with it, that's where real freedom begins. The Stoics had a name for this mindset, amor fati. It means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens to you, but embracing it, especially the hard parts. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." The fire doesn't complain. It doesn't ask, "Why me?" It simply burns brighter with every obstacle. And in the same way, a Stoic doesn't resist hardship. They transform it into strength. That's why Stoics practice something called selective indifference. This isn't about being cold or careless. It's about learning to focus only on what truly matters. Let me ask you, does someone cutting in front of you in line really deserve your peace? Is a stranger's insult on social media really worth your emotional energy? If a plan falls apart, do you dwell or do you adapt? The Stoic chooses to move forward. And this mindset isn't just ancient wisdom, it's echoed in scripture too. Which of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? Worrying, raging, obsessing over what you can't change. It's like carrying a heavy stone on your back all day. It doesn't fix anything. It only weighs you down. We often carry burdens no one asked us to. They're not shackled to our hands or tied to our backs. And yet we hold on to them, as if gripping them tightly could somehow change reality. But here's the irony. The things we try hardest to control often end up controlling us. So how do we apply amor fati, the love of fate, in our everyday lives? Step 1. Accept what's true. You cannot control the world. You cannot control what others think of you. You cannot predict what tomorrow will bring or stop unexpected events from unfolding. But there is one thing, always within your reach, how you choose to respond. When someone offends you, don't react immediately. Pause, breathe, and ask, does this truly matter? When a plan falls apart, don't drown in frustration. Ask, what can I learn from this? When life throws something unexpected your way, instead of resisting, ask, how can I use this to grow stronger? One of the most practical ways to train this mindset is through a practice called negative visualization. Imagine losing what you love most, your family, your health, your career. Not to become pessimistic, but to prepare your mind, because once you've mentally faced the worst, you stop fearing it. And a person who is ready for anything is someone who is never caught off guard or broken by life. Now, you might ask, if I accept everything, won't I become passive? Absolutely not. Acceptance is not inaction. It means you stop wasting your energy fighting what's out of your control. So you can focus all your strength on meaningful action, just like a skilled fighter. He can't control his opponent's every move, but he can control his stance, his timing, and every deliberate strike. This world can be ruthless. Life isn't always fair, but you always have a choice. Let the world control you, or take back control of yourself. Stoics choose the latter. They don't argue with reality. They don't resist what has already happened. They accept it, embrace it, and then they transform it into power. So let me ask you now, can you do the same? Can you look at the worst moments of your life and say, I won't let this break me. I will use it to grow. If you can, you've already discovered the greatest power of all, the power over yourself. We've just walked through 7 powerful Stoic principles to help you take back control of your life by reacting less and living with greater purpose. You've seen that every time you let emotions lead, you're handing over the wheel. But when you learn to stay calm, grounded, and aware, you're not just managing your emotions, you're mastering how you face the world. Because real strength, it's not about reacting loudly, it's about standing tall when everything around you is falling apart. True control doesn't come from ruling over everything. It comes from refusing to let anything rule over you. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit the like button right now. Don't let this message fade without making it count. Drop a comment below. What part of this resonated most with you? Have you ever let emotions drive your decisions? And what did it cost you? And if someone you know is struggling to find balance, share this video with them. Let it be the anchor they need in their storm. Finally, don't forget to subscribe. Because this is only the beginning. The journey to mastering your mind and building an unshakable life has so much more in store for you.